Well, a little bit of expectations rising up on the Steelers. But why are they highlighted in my eyes as one of the worst teams of the AFC North? Let's rock, and I'll explain. Alright, what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. Today, we are talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers were highlighted as one of the decent playoff teams. And during my video when I was ranking them over in all of my rankings from the Super Bowl favorites to Super Bowl contenders, playoff teams, non-playoff teams, and terrible mediocre teams, I put them in the terrible mediocre category, and I've already gotten a few complaints on that. But I wanted to highlight why I put them in that category. So I looked up all the stats on some of the new weapons that they got, along with some old ones from recent years, from past year. So if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. For now, let's get this video started. So one of the primary reasons that I put them in that category is because of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, ever since leaving Seattle, he's done very terribly. He has gone 11-19 as a starter with the Denver Broncos. I actually looked up some stats here from his recent years, so I'm going to go over those stats here right now. So according to his completion percentage rate, in 2022, his completion percentage rate was 60.5. Total amount of yards was 3,524. He had 16 touchdowns that year, 11 interceptions, and a QBR rating of 84.4, which is terrible. And then during the 2023 season, he increasingly got better as his completion percentage went up from 60.5 to 66.4. Then the yards went down with a total of 3,070. Touchdowns went up as it went to 26. And interceptions, he had 8 of the interceptions. And then also he had a QBR rating of 98. But even though he has increased, he's walking into a situation where the Steelers, they had some locker room issues before, and Russell Wilson's going to be only bringing in the locker room issues to make it even worse, because we all know he destroyed the locker room back up in Denver.
Get out of here. Go on, beat it.
And pretty much why I say that is because during his time in Denver, he got yelled at by his own defensive lineman in the game that they lost to Carolina. Then in the game against Sean Payton, and when they were going against the Detroit Lions, he was being yelled at in his face by Sean Payton. But the most important reason why Russell Wilson is highlighted as a terrible mediocre quarterback, he got beat down by Miami in not just any ordinary fashion. They got 70 posted on them. 70 points. 70. One of the second worst blowouts in NFL history. 70 points and 70 to 20 was the final score of that game. You are telling me that Russell Wilson, a guy that had 70 points posted on him, is going into a Pittsburgh situation where you have the hardest schedule, by the way.
No. Wait. Wait.
You're really going to go out there and tell me that Russell Wilson is going to do better than Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky that can't throw a dang accurate pass, and Mason Rudolph? I mean, whoever says those things is crazy. And I know the stats say it all. I know that. But answer me this. During last season, who were the guys that led the Steelers to a winning season. Who were those quarterbacks? Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky that can't throw a dang accurate pass, and Mason Rudolph. And then during when they went into the playoffs, who was the one that they started? Mason Rudolph, and they made it close. And also, during the time in Denver, who was the quarterback for the Broncos during those years? Russell Wilson. And despite them being closer to the playoff picture, the fact still stands that Russell Wilson is going to bring this locker room down even more, which I'm expecting Justin Fields to probably take over for him. Not that he's going to do any better. I looked some stats up on him as well. During his time, let me get a closer look here. So during last season, he had a completion percentage of 61.4, total yardage of 2,562 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 86.3 QBR rating. But the and I have stated this for a variety of times. I don't care what anybody else says. Arthur Smith is not an upgrade over Matt Canada. And to prove my point, I've looked up 3 stats on Matt Canada and Arthur Smith. Let me go over those stats with all the Steeler fans. Arthur Smith's total record as a head coach during his time in Atlanta, 21-30. Matt Canada during his time as the OC for Pittsburgh, 40-29-1. Total offensive rank from last year, Arthur Smith, 17th when they had the 11th ranked defense. They still went 7-10, which is ridiculous. And Matt Canada had the 26th ranked defense on offense and still somehow made the playoffs. And then quarterbacks they worked with. Arthur Smith worked with Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ritter, and Taylor Heineke. Matt Canada, he worked with Big Ben, Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and Mitch Trubisky that can't throw a dang accurate pass for crying out loud. You're telling me that a guy named by the name of Arthur Smith can really upgrade this offense?
Huh?
I mean, I don't believe it. I don't. And I'm going to explain why. How do you have the 17th ranked offense and the 11th ranked defense and still go 7-10? How is that possible? Somebody explain that to me. How is that possible when you have the 17th ranked offense and the 11th ranked defense? And to all those Pittsburgh Steelers fans that want to put up an argument with me, name me one team that has gone 7-10 that has the 17th ranked offense and the 11th ranked defense. Name me one team, and I'll take everything back. Uh huh. I didn't think so. And I know the Steeler fans are entitled to their opinions, but this is getting up to a whole nother level because some of the weapons they brought in are just not that great. Also, I looked up some stats here on some of the weapons they got on Quez Watkins, Cordell Patterson, and sticking with Najee Harris and George Pickens. I'm going to go over each individual player's stats from last season. So, total of this is Quez Walker. He had a total of 1 touchdown last year, which that is pretty awful because he was on the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a total of 16 targets. He only had 105 yards and averaged he had total 11 total receptions. But Quez Watkins was not a good move by the Steelers because he's not really good. No stats showed it because he was barely a factor last year. And then Cordell Patterson. Let me go over some stats on this guy from last season. He had a total of 50 rush attempts, 181 yards, average of 3.6 per carry, 0 touchdowns, and 9 receptions. That is not a good guy either. I mean, Cordell Patterson is a stud, but he wasn't barely a factor for the Falcons last year. And then Najee Harris. Let me move to him. Even though he did not get his 5th year option, which kind of shocked a lot of people, go over some stats on him from last season because we all know Jalen Warren was the pretty much the wrecking ball of this running game that pretty much had his game against my team, the Seahawks. But anyways, enough about that. He had a total of 255 carries, 1,035 yards, 4.1 per carry, 8 touchdowns, 29 receptions. It's not decent, but it's not great. I mean, he's still good, but he needs to break out this year if he's going to stay in the black and yellow. But anyways, next up, George Pickens. This guy kind of got me in question of what Russell Wilson can do because he had a down year last year. Let me go over some stats here. During his last year, he had 63 receptions, 1,140 yards, 18.1 average. His longest touchdown was 86 yards, which I believe was the game he had against Cincinnati during that Thursday night game. 5 touchdowns and 18 yards on a few of the carries. But George Pickens, he was barely a factor for this team. And he wasn't even did really good in that blocking game. He wasn't even very good. He wasn't even blocking. This locker room, one guy barely even tried to tackle a man down when they were against Cincinnati. He walked away like the play was over and the ball was still loose. And you let him return it for like 40 yards? I mean, you barely even made an attempt to tackle that guy down. Now, of course, it was Dante Johnson, who is now with the Carolina Panthers in that swap of picks and players. But my point to the Steelers fans is this. My point is this. Don't get too overhyped because it is Russell Wilson that we're talking about here. A guy that has not had a breakout season since his Super Bowl run with the Seahawks that they won a Super Bowl. He has not had a breakout season since then. And also, another interesting stat I wanted to point out. Many people don't notice, but during when he got his paycheck, after he got his paycheck with the Seattle Seahawks, guess what his playoff record was? 3-6. 3-6. 3-6. That's Dak Prescott numbers for crying out loud.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I mean, for real, that's Dak Prescott numbers. Russell Wilson is like Dak Prescott. He performs well at some points, and then all of a sudden, kaboom, he just self implodes because he's not had a great situation. Sure, he wasn't in the best situation in Denver. Sure, he had the worst offense that he's ever worked with. Sure, it was the donkeys known as the Denver Broncos. I get all that. But what I'm saying is, when you bring in an offensive coordinator like Arthur Smith, his primary weak spot has been mediocre quarterback play. And I know everyone's going back to when he was an offensive coordinator in Tennessee. I know everyone's pointing to that. I'm looking at the stats that he had when he was a head coach in the last 3 years. He was 21-30. He was 19 games worse than Matt Canada. That is my point. He had the 17th ranked offense last year. What was the Falcons' record? 7-10. And they had the 11th ranked overall defense. How did they show up in the game against Carolina? Lost 9-7. 9-7 against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina. It wasn't New York. It wasn't even the terribleness of the Patriots. It was the Carolina Panthers, the team that went 2-15 last year. And Arthur Smith's Falcons still lost to them. And I know the Steelers' defense is a lot different than the Atlanta Falcons' defense. But if TJ Watt gets hurt, I'm not saying he will, but if he gets hurt, I don't fully trust Patrick Queen in that category because Patrick Queen, he has not performed very well without the help of Roquan Smith. He has not been an amazing guy when he was without Roquan Smith. And to help on this point, I've looked up Patrick Queen's stats here. So before Roquan Smith arrived was 2020, his 2020 season and 2021 season. In total of those 2 years combined, he had a combination of 204 tackles. And then he also had 70 assists, 5 sacks, 1 interception, 0 yards, and 0 touchdowns. That was before Roquan Smith arrived. After Roquan Smith arrived, let me go over the stats of when he arrived. Let me look at this and then. So he had a total of 250 combination tackles. Um, 87 solo assists, 8.5 sacks, and 3 interceptions, along with returning them for a total of 32 yards. That's a big improvement from when Roquan Smith arrived. That's my point. Patrick Queen was not really good until Roquan Smith got there. Once Roquan Smith got there, he turned into a star. But we have not seen him since then, since the 2021 season, turn into a star. We have not seen him do it on his own. And he will have a little help with Mika Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt, and along with Cameron Hayward in there, who won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. He will have the help. But if TJ Watt goes down, this team is an entirely different team. This team is entirely different. And the reason why I'm declaring them as one of the worst teams of the AFC North, 3 reasons. Number one, you are going against 3 tough divisional opponents that have hard hit, smash later defenses, and also along with high powered offenses. That sure, Lamar Jackson has not beaten you guys yet, nor is Deshaun Watson. It's gonna happen sooner or later, especially in that 8-game gauntlet. And number two, you have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL this year, especially the excuse me, especially the last 8-game stretch. You not only have to play your divisional opponents twice, all of them, but you also have to play the Chiefs and the Eagles that are going to be a lot better this year than they were last. And number three, you got 2 mediocre quarterbacks by the names of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Sure, Justin Fields wasn't, sure, these quarterbacks weren't in the best situations. The fact is that Russell Wilson is getting old, he is getting washed up, and that Justin Fields, he might have potential, but he's not going to start this season. Well, at least at the early parts, maybe later on. But if if this team has a losing season, just know that I was the one that predicted it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think on my opinion. You can agree with me or disagree. Either or is all right. You all can have your opinions. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you all in the next one. Ciao for now.